Shanna. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Kate. And yourself?
Fantastic for 4:10 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon.
That's it.
I'm really excited that you're going to make the trip up from Eurobodalla to be at the Yila Healing Trail. It feels like quite an honor to have you there because you've been tireless in this space of end of life, like really tireless. Every time I'm talking to anybody, you come into my mind or they talk about you or something. You're really in the end of life space. So how many years has it been now?
20 plus years. Yeah. And I always I can remember that because I remember that my son was 16 when I started down this journey. And yeah, it was back in the day, pre-Google. Uh, I
Was
went
there
to
a
the national.
pre-Google?
There was life before Google. There really was. But it was a tricky road because so what happened for me was I was going overseas as a journalist to Japan for 3 weeks, and just this thought dropped in because single mum home with my 16-year-old son, the rest of the family 1,000 kilometers away. And so I thought, oh, if anything were to happen to me over there, he would have no idea where to start, and he would basically have nothing to show my family to say this is what mum would actually really want. So I just started scribbling notes, and clearly I made it back alive, but I felt much better over there because I knew I'd put some things in place. And then when I got back, friends would say to me, can I have a copy of those notes that you did? So I decided that I would make it into a booklet. And it was a little cottage industry thing at the time. And then it ultimately turned into the Rest Easy Journal. Oh, you came in to have a look. I was quick, wasn't I?
You were a down-to-earth approach. That just sums
Tiny.
you up in about 4 words.
Yeah, I am pragmatic, if nothing else. So, but as I said, pre-Google, and I had to go to the National Library in Canberra. There were two books on death and dying, and I wasn't allowed to take them away. I had to read them in the National Library and then hand them back in. And everything else was done by phone, ringing agencies, government agencies, and all of that. So it was a slow process. And no one wanted to talk about death and dying back then, right? But then Google came along and it just changed. And as I've said to you in the past, sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. There's so much information on end of life that it can become overwhelming. But from there, from being writing that journal, I then fell into being a funeral celebrant. I was asked to do a ceremony for a suicide case for a family, and it just snowballed from there. And when that happened, it I really got to see up close the ramifications of people not preparing, thinking about planning their end of life, and it was
You
tough for
know,
families.
oh, it continues to be tough, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, that was, as you say, 20 years ago, but even now, not many people that I know are properly prepared for the end of life.
Mm.
I don't know about you. Do you think it's got
Yeah,
better?
it has got better, and there are more people talking about it, but there's still, last time I looked, there was still only 51% of Australian adults that had a will. And I just read recently that an Australian dies every 3 minutes.
Mhm.
So, I'm not really, math's not my thing, but, so when I do my workshops, that's the first thing I ask people. And I get a range of range of responses to that.
Mm.
But, and I often say, when in my writing, I've seen the best of deaths and I've seen the worst of deaths. And also then became a certified death doula.
Mm.
So it just happened that I went down this trajectory some, very rarely someone will say, geez, that's pretty morbid. And I go, well, do you know what? Guess what? I'm going to die. Pretty sure you will too. But when I think about those good deaths and best deaths, worst deaths, it's the people that have, first of all, come to grips with the reality that they are mortal, found some way, and I can't help people with that, was my word, but they've found some way to accept that's the case. Then they've started to look at what their values are. And from there, in my workshops, in the workshop that I'll be doing in the Shoalhaven for U3A, I'm so excited about doing that.
Likewise.
Yeah. But we go through the fact that if you have your value, I mean, we think we know what our values are, but it's not until we sit down and actually write it out with prompted questions that we get real clarity. So once we know our values, that influences our choices. And that's choices around funeral, it's choices around end of life. From there, then we can start to write down what we want. The first thing that people need to do, and it is a need, you know, I'm not a big person. No, I've lost the train, so we'll stop.
Okay, we'll get back there. We're going to get on that train.
Yes.
So you were saying that there's, how many things were you saying? There's 7.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So the things that we'll be talking about at the workshop, the U3A workshop, which I'm really excited to be doing, once we've become okay with the reality that we are going to die, then the next thing is to understand what our values are. So we think we know what our life values are, but actually, if you sit down and think about them very carefully, you might get a little bit of a surprise. But once we do understand those values, then that influences the choices that we make in life, in everything. But in terms of end of life, it influences what kind of funeral we might have. It influences our end of life choices in terms of an advanced care plan. You know, what kind of medical assistance do we want or not want? What that journey is going to be like. So once we've done that and we've established what it is, then I always say to people, go to your doctor, go to your solicitor, go to all of your financial advisor, those people who can give you an indication of what the influence of those choices that you've made will have on everybody else. Because it's
right.
Well, it's all very well for us to go, for example, I want to be shot out of a cannon. You know, I want my ashes shot out of a cannon, or I want a Viking funeral. That's fun and that's fine, but can you have that in the Shoalhaven Shire, right? So we need to understand that the choices that we make influence others. So once we do the choices and then we talk to professionals about what the ramifications of those choices are, then we have to write it down. I've been to so many sitting around tables with mums flown in from Ireland, sisters from Queensland, wife is sitting there, and they're all going, oh no, he would hate that song. Oh no, I remember distinctly, he said, and the best time that happened for me was when the Rest Easy Journal was sitting on the coffee table, and I was able to go, let's just have a look. Well, we just have a look and see what he said. And it was written there. And then everyone went, oh, okay, it's recorded, right? So once you've done that, then you've written it down. And then the next step, I'm giving away half the workshop here, okay?
Yeah. Well, we should stop right there. You have to come to the workshop to see the next step.
To find the last.
Don't give that last step away.
No, there's a couple more. But yes, I mean, that's the kind of thing for me, is like,
yeah,
I'm just a pragmatist,
yeah.
always have been. And so, and what I do is I'm trying to make it simple. I've got a Rest Easy toolkit, and it's literally tick and flick, tick, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. When I go into a family home as a funeral celebrant, I take in a sheet that's basically the same. So we can just sit there and very gently go cremation or burial.
Yes.
Cultural preferences. Okay. So who might do that? And then just write it down. Then get all of the details of all the families, flowers, not flowers. And it's just done in a way that it's not overwhelming for people.
Yeah, and Shanna, you know, just by doing those practical things, it really addresses the first point that you made, coming to grips with your own death is, you know, once you have to start thinking into that, it starts to come into the picture. Whereas, you know, we've been taught, or our society is such that it's way over there and you don't know and you don't want to know, you know. Oof. So it's pretty exciting that you're coming to do this. It's really thrilling. So I want to know, just out of my own curiosity, how's it changed you? 20 years in the death industry.
I'm a richer person for it. I feel, honestly feel that when I do a service, and I usually like to do a service for people I know or parents of people that I know, because I think it's really important to be able to honor the person in a personal way. It's one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given. To be able to hold the space for people in their deepest grief and guide them through saying goodbye to those people that they love is, oh gosh, it's a blessing to me. So that's the first thing. I've had some really interesting experiences, Kate, that have woken me up a lot about different things. And also that I've even had the experience where I worked with them for a month, writing down, they were on a cancer journey. She wrote down every single thing that she wanted. She wrote her eulogy. She designed her program, and I did it all up for her. Typed, is this what you want? Yes. Sign this. Okay, great. And then after she died, one family member went, nah, and changed things.
Wow.
And so I was just devastated because I knew how much she'd invested in it. And I actually had, my son's my rock, right? And he's known, you know, his mum's been banging on about death and dying since he was 16. And I just said, what am I doing? You know, why am I doing this? This is crazy. And he said, Mom, you did it for her, because she actually died 36 hours later. He said she could go knowing that she put everything that she could in place to make it easier for her family. And I thought, okay, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the reason why I say that is because we have all these ideas about what it's going to be like, but you know what? You've got to let it go. You put the things in place, you write out what you might like to make it easier when they're trying to make decisions, but then you have to just let it go.
Let it go. It's like anything that's truly healing. As a healer, you can only do what you do. And then that's a soul choice that is the family's soul as well as the individual soul. And it's so true, isn't it, with birth and death, that you have no idea how that's going to be. You can think into it. I've seen some pretty minutely kind of organized birth processes prior to the birth. And it's usually those ones that go helicopter out of there, you know, child nearly dies but is saved at last moment, etc. You know, like there's a whole lot of greater forces than us working in the
Yes, that's right.
the death.
And I used to always talk about a good death, right? I want a good death. And I've just done a whole host of workshops for the Eurobodalla Shire Council just recently for Dying to Know Day. And I just said to everybody, I'm not putting out for a good death anymore. And they went, what? And I said, no, I want a death with grace.
Wow.
What does that mean? And I said, it means that whatever arises, I'm able to meet it with grace, but also knowing that I've put things down and I've made it easier for my son to do what he needs to do as a result of my leaving this planet. That's a graceful death to me.
Hallelujah. I'm just going to live by that one too, if I might.
You're welcome. There'll be two of us.
Well, you know, big things from little things grow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Shanna, you're coming up to the U3A, and we're
Yeah.
really excited about that. Like, it's very exciting. You're one of our 6 events around end of life because it is so important and it frames our lives, and that's where the well-being continues to that last breath, and then on to the rest of the family if you do it well. So it's great. And then you're also going to be on the panel at Nowra
Oh, yes.
Cemetery, which is very exciting. Yeah, I know you do a lot of your work in community down there in Eurobodella. I can see some possum tails hanging over there.
Ah,
You know, you do beautiful work in community, and it'll be great for you to be able to share some of that with us on the panel when the opportunity arises, with Auntie Loretta Parsley as well.
yes.
We'll see who else we've got on that panel. A few interesting people. Yeah. So
Yep.
thank you.
It'll be fun. Oh, you're welcome. It's and of course we're both part of the Good Death Network, End of Life Network, which is a wonderful group of people who focus on end of life stuff. So it's really, I mean, that's really why you got a yes from me, is to just support everybody and all the members in that way. But also, I know that Shoalhaven is, to me, Shoalhaven Council's ahead of the game in terms of supporting its community with end of life.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your Healthy End of Life program that came out of there with Carolyn Vaughan, and you know, I've just seen some amazing things that have come from Shoalhaven. So good on you. I'm glad to be part of that.
Thank you. And I know that Shoalhaven Bereavement Services, who is the council part that looks after death so well around here, they're very excited about having you there too and listening up to what you've got to say. So thank you for joining us, and
You're welcome.
see you on the day.
Yes. And I'm really looking forward to attending the shroud making workshop as well.
Absolutely. You're
Looks
booked in.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.